Hi, everyone, and welcome to another exciting edition of Words, Images, and Worlds. My guest this evening, I feel very Tom Brokaw saying that. My guest this evening has actually been on the pod before and has done a written interview with me as well, and coming back for a second time to talk about the world of comics in general, ideas that inspire comics, and some upcoming works, which we have some cover reveals for, I believe, and that is Maria Scrivan. Maria, thank you for
Hi.
jumping in. Hi. Hi.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I am enjoying your shelfie, and so you have some nice
Yeah.
representation there of books that you've worked on. So first question, as we think about comics in general, is why comics for you? What does this medium allow you to do in telling stories? And we'll also talk about comic strips because you have the syndicated series Half Full as well. So
Correct.
we could talk about some of those differences.
Right. Well, the interesting thing for me as a kid, all I ever wanted to do was be a cartoonist. It took a very windy path to get here. And my original thought for the Nat series was to be prose with spot illustrations, like a wimpy kid thing. And then I saw
Hmm.
a graphic novelist speak at Crossroads Columbus in Ohio. And in that moment, I was like, of course, this has to be a comic. And one of the things I love so much about comics is the little nuances, the hidden things in the background, and expression. And especially
Hmm.
now with social emotional learning being such a huge component, the idea that you can not only see the expression of the main character, but everybody else in the scene. And that's not something that always happens in a prose book. So you know how the main character's feeling, you may know how the secondary, but you can see everything that's going on and these little subtle nuances. And I also love humor. So it's really fun for me. Every chapter opens with the character's cat and treat. And that's part
Hmm.
of my
Hmm.
comic strip thing where I bring my panel in. But it's really fun for me to use humor, especially because these books were based on childhood experiences and feelings that felt pretty
Hmm.
bad when I was going through them at the time. Now I can laugh at them. And I think many things in life that feel very trying, you can laugh at with some time and with through a different lens of humor. So that for
Hmm.
me, that's what I love about it. It gives me so much flexibility to tell a story.
Yeah. No, you've crafted widely. We'll come back to the comic strip question in just a moment because I believe let's see how this looks. I believe you have a book that is to come, and that is All Is Not Lost. Is that true in February?
Correct.
And the
Yep.
cover looks kind of like this one, I believe.
Yep.
So I'll show the full cover as well in just a moment so we can get the two
Great.
level effect. But curious about what comics allow you to do in telling these sort of youth focused, adolescent focused, upper elementary and beyond sort of stories.
Well, like I said, I think having the humor element makes it more fun. And also,
Hmm.
I love hiding stuff in the background. And it's so easy to do that with images so that people want to go back and read them over and over again to see what they
Hmm.
missed. And it adds a little subtext to the story as well when you have sort of a background element happening at the same time. And
Yeah.
these are ages 8 to 12. So although they're middle school, it's also kind of middle elementary as well, because ages 8 to 12, that's third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh grade. So it has a really wide audience.
Yeah, and I think, sometimes people sort of say, okay, comics reach a certain audience or they're for a particular method or for a particular type of story. And I think your work illustrates, here's the cover as well, more in full. I think your work illustrates that, middle grades mean so much more than just a particular time period. I really like the flexibility of
Exactly.
comics. So we've talked about, the adolescent or middle grades focused sort of world of graphic novels and comics. What's it like to then explore comic strips? Because it's much more of a constrained medium where you only have so many panels and the comic strip is only provided so many times.
Right. And I've only done panel comics, so I have one panel. And for me, the challenge is doing different characters, different story, different setting every single time. I can never rely on the character to tell me what's going to happen. You have
Mhm.
usually, we know with certain characters, they have certain behaviors, so the character helps write it. And that was a fun transition for me actually to go to character based with Nat. And I absolutely have Nat kind of tells me where the story's going. The other characters do. The character Flo, the girl who has the hair hanging in her face, what I
Hmm.
love about her is I never know what she's going to say. And she pops up on the page, and it's always a big surprise to me. So it's been really fun for me to go from single panel to sequential art. And the Nat project was my first really big experience with ongoing characters now into the sixth book actually that I'm working on now.
Hmm.
So
Hmm. And that's a wonderful thing because sometimes readers run across a single book and they want more of the story, but to get to expand and explore and kind of create your own Nat universe there is a very cool thing for readers.
yeah, and it's been fun for me too because I've learned so much from her as a character. Even though it started out pulling stories from my childhood feelings and experiences, I've learned so much from these characters as well, which has been really cool experience for me.
Yeah, yeah. So curious about sort of the literacy, the teaching side. I'm an English teacher by day when I'm not, hanging out here in Zoom talking with authors and things. And so I'm curious about what you feel like comics bring to literacy and reading. And I'm thinking about kids here. I'm thinking about young readers, but really across the board. I think we can talk across the board with comics.
Yeah, so well, to start with younger readers, one thing that I've heard over and over again is how many times reluctant readers have read my book as their first book, cover to cover. It's a
Hmm. Hmm.
235-page book. So for that, then they feel successful. And they're, I can conquer this, I can conquer anything. So I think it brings, if it can get kids who aren't interested in reading interested, and now they want to read everything. I think that's one of the best components. And as I was saying before, I think it adds so many layers. And I love prose as well. I think prose is an amazing medium as well. But this gives you so many more opportunities for other levels of empathy to bring
Hmm.
art into it. And also, I think an interesting side effect is so many kids want to create comics of their own.
Hmm.
So then they get inspired. And so many kids are like, I want to make my own comic. I want to tell my own stories. And I hope that kids and adults get inspired to tell their own stories as well, whether visually or with words, with prose and only.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and I love that too because sometimes students might not exactly have the words for what they
Right.
want to share, and the pictures can then come alongside as a way of sharing information as well.
And we're all different. I mean, I was obviously a visual learner and visual communicator by far. So there's different styles. So for someone who's truly a visual learner, this is what they need. Whereas someone who is not, it doesn't make as much of a difference. But I think it helps give everybody an opportunity to hear all different voices.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And just having the chance to sit down with a text that's engaging, to see someone that maybe represents you or represents something that you're
That's
interested in.
huge.
Yeah,
That's a great point. I think to be for kids especially to be able to see themselves in a page is tremendous. That's an amazing point.
yeah, yeah. I wish it was mine, but I have to give Rudine Sims Bishop the credit for that. Absolutely. Powerful concept, very powerful.
That's wonderful. Yeah.
Yeah. So you have work in the world of adolescent readers and middle graders readers. You have work in the world coming. I believe you've worked with some Marvel characters as well. I know we
Mm-hmm.
can't say too much about that world because Marvel being Marvel, there are boundaries and not everybody's in Cerebro on that yet. That was a nice Marvel reference. I tried to slide in there. Hopefully that works. And we've also talked comic strips. So I guess the question is, in terms of your creative journey, what's next? What are you exploring and thinking about? Are you unfolding more Nat? Are you thinking about new ways of storytelling in comics? What's kind of burning on your mind at this point?
Well, I'm continuing the half full 3 days a week. I'm currently working on Nat Book 6, which I'm very excited about. I just finished the first draft for that. And then I have other projects in both in the adult world and in the younger reader world that I'm playing with that I love this idea of comics for literally everyone. So
Hmm.
I'm working
Hmm.
on things in different age brackets completely. And I love it I love what's being done with adult graphic novels. I think there's, like I said, so many stories to tell. So I'm looking forward to doing some of that as well.
Yeah, yeah. Now, one of the things that I always like to make sure I mention on an episode is the web space, places online where people can go. And in the video, there will be
Yeah,
a pop-up box and things like that. But before I
great.
get there, just to make sure, Is there anything that we've missed in the talk through that you'd like to share about what comics have meant to you and what it's like to now work in the world of comics or anything
I
else?
think, yeah, no, I think it's fun. I have this photo that I show in presentations when I was a little kid. So I'm 9, 10. I read every Garfield book cover to cover.
Mm-hmm,
I was just
mm-hmm.
obsessed. And I kind of was the reason why I wanted to be a cartoonist. I also loved Snoopy and I loved pretty much all the comics in the Sunday Funnies. I would read them start to finish. But I have this great photo of that. And I'm part of the National Cartoonist Society. And in being part of that, I've got to meet so many of my childhood heroes, including Jim Davis, who
Mm.
wrote a blurb for my book. And in little talks, I always say, like, what I really need in all of this is a time machine to go back to my 10-year-old self to say, all of these dreams are going to come true. You're going to be, you're going to be a syndicated cartoonist. You're going to get to write books. And somehow, the very person of the book that you're reading now is going to blurb your book. That's something that I really find hard to believe, but also love that I actually got to bring this childhood dream to fruition.
Yeah, yeah. And the thing that I also think about are the number of young readers that have discovered, will discover your work, that are then inspired to also create. And years from now will be, I don't know if they'll be sitting in a Zoom like this or what we'll be doing, but talking about that chain of
They'll be in
inspiration.
space.
That's right. Yeah.
Right.
Who knows?
They'll be floating around with holograms. I don't
Yeah,
know.
exactly. They'll be
No, but that would
holograms.
be great. And even now, when kids send me art that they've drawn of Nat, my heart is completely turns into a puddle. I love that so much.
Mhm.
Or they send me their own comics that have nothing to do with Nat, and they're so proud because they're like, I want to make a comic strip too. And I love knowing that kids are inspired to do anything. If there's anything I can do to help kids want to tell their stories and draw more, that makes me happier than anything.
Love it, love it. So now I'll get to that website question, and that
Great.
is any space where people can connect, where they can follow along, thinking about author visits, thinking about contacting you if I'm a young fan, or any of those sort of things.
Yeah, so mariascrivan.com, MariaScrivan.com pretty much has everything. And speaking of, I do author visits. I work with Authors Unbound. The information's on the website on how to connect with them. Uh, it also has links to all of my other social media and everything, but it's pretty simple. I'm at Maria Scrivan across all social media. So I'm currently on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter or X or whatever it's
Hmm,
called now,
hmm.
and Threads for the moment, and TikTok. So we'll see. I can't. That's all I can do. I know there's others, but that's all I can handle right now.
I
So
was gonna say you're in many spaces, many, many spaces, so that's
yeah.
very
So, but it's Maria Scrivan across all of them. But the hub of mariascrivan.com is probably the easiest way to find. I have a newsletter there if people want to sign up for, and I do have a PO box. I love getting letters and often respond. I try to respond as much as possible. So if you want to send a comic along that you're doing or something, or just a note, I love to respond to that.
wonderful, wonderful. You might be the first guest that has come on that's mentioned um, through the mail, snail mail, because when I was a young person, that's what I was doing. I was writing to authors like Ray Bradbury, who actually answered me.
Did he
Uh,
write you back?
he wrote me
Oh,
back.
that's
Um,
incredible.
yeah, yeah, and so that's a huge connection, and obviously something that I still carry with me. So
Oh,
wonderful
that's
that
amazing.
you're connecting that way as well.
Well, my dad was a postman for 40
Yep.
years. So
Hmm,
I have
hmm.
this special heart connection with mail. And it's such now more than ever, it's so special to actually get a letter. And I like decorating the envelopes and stamps, the whole thing. So I can't help myself. I love mail. I know that most people don't care about mail anymore. And I do a lot of greeting cards too, which is fun because I have so many samples. So then I get to actually send them out for people's you know, different birthdays and holidays and all that stuff. But I know it's definitely one of the things that has gone sort of by the wayside. But I'm trying to keep mail alive. So
Sounds great. Sounds great. Glad you are. Glad you're connecting with readers. And thank you for talking with me. I'm glad to talk with you anytime.
thank you. This was great. I really appreciate it.